we're starting to get more of the data, the actual voting data, as opposed to exit polls. And what is coming increasingly clear is that Donald Trump really didn't gain any new voters beyond what one would expect from an increase in population. In other words, the percentage of eligible voters that he got was basically the same as it was in 2020.
Yeah.
But it was Harris who got a not much lower, but all it takes is a couple of percentage points lower of her eligible voters based upon 2020.
The anti-MAGA voters did not show up. They may have stayed on their couch, but it wasn't like there was this seismic mandate that the Republicans were trying to say. And,
in many respects, this is like consistent with what, Jeet here has been arguing about system, anti-system.
And Matt was warning about this before the election with the low propensity partisans who ended up some of them, a lot of them stayed home in that coalition.
The Trump low propensity voters showed up for Trump in the same way that they did in 2020. But the Democratic leaning ones didn't because they weren't inspired by negative partisanship.
Beyonce.
Or Harris or they may have been depressed too because
Beyonce
of things
didn't actually sing, so
she did not.
But that's the thing is
Gaza.
I just remember Joy Reid saying she had everything this time, including Taylor Swift. It's like Hillary had Beyonce in 2016 too. Why do we keep expecting this to move the needle?
I wouldn't even know Beyonce if she was sitting in this office.
It's idiots that wanted their concert day to be also their politics.
But also, look, I don't know how much Beyonce got paid. It was a lot, right?
Yeah.
But I will tell you now.
That's another scandal, I think.
I will tell you right now. When Beyonce gets paid, I don't know, $1 million, there's a lot of other people who make a lot of money too.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
Did you see those influencers?
There's not a lot of money getting paid to people going out and canvassing. There's just not a lot of ways to skim off that game.
Yeah. And even the canvassing operation, part of what gave them confidence was, they were out knocking Trump and, Elon was doing some algorithmic politics. But at the end of the day, the Democrats just didn't have a message that could drive people, even if they're doing all the things and coloring inside the lines. That's what people refer to when they talk about the campaign in that way. It's not like there were these glaring things like with Hillary not going to the swing states, but it was the message that was the problem.
Yeah, there was a complete lack of, not a complete lack, but there was a complete lack of coherence to a message.
Yeah.
I would also argue that just being a pro-corporate message delivered by Mark Cuban would not have been effective. I don't think those people sitting on the couch were sitting there going you're not quite corporate enough.
Appeal to me more as as a hopeful entrepreneur instead of what I am, a working person, which Democrats can't do. You have to be, here's a tax deductible thing, or here's a way to start a business.
Well, but also remember, there's a lot of people who got booted off of Medicaid. There's a lot of people who lost. So many people lost the the child tax credit. Now, I am very aware of why that child tax credit went away. I can get broad. I can get nuanced about it. I can say that, it's Biden's fault for not bringing Build Back Better up in June of 2021. I can say that it was because they split it into two bills, and Pelosi allowed it to be split up in two bills. I can say that it was Manchin and Sinema, but I'll tell you who cannot say that: the 19 million people who should have voted if Biden or Harris, I should say, the Democratic ticket had maintained its share of the voting population from 2020, like Trump did. Those 19 million people could not. All they did is experience the loss. Now, they maybe should have known that it came from Biden, even though it came like a month after, Biden's in office. So it's like,
But
you can say there should be far greater expectation of voters to know these things, but you also should be savvy enough to know that they don't.
But I'm sorry, like, it also may have bridged that gap if there was somebody at the top of the ticket who was a communicator who could have explained some of these things, who could have repeated talking about the child tax credit over and over again.
Well,
like,
but even Harris didn't have,
But
she
the
may
die
have
was
supported
cast.
these things. The die,
By the time she entered the race, that you can't make whatever. I
she
mean,
may not have been able to make it.
she wasn't the best communicator, and also, but the problem is that Biden for 2+ years wasn't talking.
Yep.
Like what, and so I think that created a massive opportunity for the Republicans.
International Socialist, Sam, you have to wonder, given millions of Musk pumped into Trump, was Musk's main effort in cutting Democrats' vote in key states using social medias? There's no doubt that also contributed to it, right? Like, I mean, and Gaza was a big part of that, I think, too. I mean, all of these things contributed to it. But there are some things that you have control over, and there's some things that you don't. You don't have control over Elon Musk because you have failed to pass a wealth tax. You don't have control over Elon Musk doing this in a race. You don't. Going forward, you don't. In fact, going forward from 2 years ago, you don't. So based upon that reality, right? Like, you can't complain, hey, man, it's going to be a tough football game because it's raining. No, you got to deal with it.
Yeah, right.
You got to deal with it.
And they try to deal with it with Mark Cuban instead of, running against billionaires.
Right.
There's a piece in the New York Times here that Current Affairs pointed out. There was a $2.5 million directed to 3 digital agencies that worked with online influencers, record show. The campaign spent around $900,000 to book it with the Las Vegas Spear. Pull this over, Bradley. This is one of the influencers. Put the picture of him with Biden first.
Oh, yes.
This is, look at influencer there with Joe happily. And let's get a taste of some of the...
Oh, you fake ass Bernie, bro. Stop putting this big black woman with these yellow arms under my post. Fuck Rashida, bitch. I don't give a damn about this bitch. I don't fuck with AOC. AOC can't do a motherfucking thing for me but make me a goddamn martini, bitch. She can't do shit for me. She need to take her ass back to the motherfucking bartending days, bitch. She ain't done shit. Fuck Bernie Sanders. Telling it.
Okay.
I think we get the idea.
Great job there.
Those are the influencers that the Democratic Party is coveting. People that
It's brainless. It's as bad as MAGA, this sort of like partisan Democrat thing, and maybe even more harmful because the one party that should be able to deliver for people is listening to these idiots and bringing them into the White House.
But on the politics of it, it's actually way worse than what MAGA does, right? Yeah. Because their paid influencers are speaking to what the base wants, which is the Trump cult stuff. Right. Our paid influencers are telling the base that they're stupid and that AOC should be making this guy a drink. I mean,
unbelievable.
That must people have been pointing out why all these idiots got invited, and I think Jamie Harrison is a good place to start the investigation.
What entity paid them?
I'm not sure. And this is just the surmise by the Current Affairs that this guy got some of the $2.5 million toward 3 digital agencies. It'd be good to know those digital agencies and who worked with them.
Yeah. I can tell you right now unequivocally, we did not.
It would be interesting to see who got that money. I mean, maybe some of these money people are figuring out, like, they can fund centrist Democrat kind of influencers on the internet.
I just think that
it's been a wash
the
in the
story
right.
of this stuff is just sort of sheer incompetence, right? Like, because if you're farming this stuff out to a digital agency, they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, they're just looking at they're not looking at the content. They're just looking at like the names and
the data.
Who are the big, in numbers? Like, remember when I ended up on that list that Bernie Kerik did for Giuliani of right-wing influencers?
Right.
And that must have been just because, like, somehow I got caught up in their algorithm and they just assumed, they just passed that on. I mean, had they worked in the same way, some agency might have been like, hey, Sam Cedar, I'm from the, Keep It Red agency, and we want to offer you $50,000 for all the great work you've been doing.
Right.
Along with your friends, Steven Crowder or whatnot. And they just hand this money out because the bottom line is somebody gets cut. Mm-hmm. That's it. It's just business. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.